Now, the question that I always get after a student accepts Jesus, maybe in a Bible club meeting or at a school or a campus, is what's next? Like, what is the next step to actually following Christ and modeling his lifestyle? Especially in this day and age we live in 2014, where a lot of people don't really know what a Christian looks like. There's so many different people with opinions and ideas, but I want to bring you today to the truth, which is the Word of God, because ultimately our opinions don't dictate what this Word says. This Word has to dictate what our opinions say. So I want to read you just some people in the Bible who follow Jesus and what their lifestyles look like, and hopefully we can get some comparisons to say either, man, I'm really walking like a Christian, or I'm really not. So let me read you a story today about two brothers. I'll set the scene for you. Two brothers, it's Peter and Andrew. They're fishing, they're fishermen, and all of a sudden they encounter Jesus. He comes and he walks up and he asks them a question that changes and flips their entire life. Let me read it to you. This is Matthew chapter 4, verse 18. It says, "Now as Jesus was walking by the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon, who was called Peter, and Andrew, his brother, casting nets into the sea, for they were fishermen. He said to them, 'Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men.'" This is a crazy statement. So here Jesus is walking by and he sees these two brothers. They're minding their own business. They're doing what they're doing. They're at their job. In the Jewish culture, a lot of these fishermen were fishermen from growing up. It was like a family business they would get involved in. So they've probably been doing it for years. Most of their income probably came from fishing. You know, their whole life was dependent upon what they had once done. All of a sudden, Jesus comes. He sees them in the middle of what they're doing, and he says, "Hey, follow me, and I'll make you fishers of men." What does that mean? It doesn't mean Jesus was going to go have them get a hook and throw it in people's mouths and pull them. What he was really saying is, you've caught fish in the sea for a long time, but now I want to change your occupation. I want to change your lifestyle. And I want you to begin to catch, not fish, but I want you to begin to catch men's hearts and bring them to me. Bring them to the Father. Bring them to the God that created them, okay? So there was a complete occupation change here that Jesus is inviting them into, okay? It says this in verse 20, "Immediately they left their nets and followed him." I want to read you another passage also found in Matthew of another disciple that Jesus calls. This one has a little bit different setting, he has a little bit different story. This is the disciple called Matthew. Now Matthew's other name was also Levi, and Matthew was not a fisherman. Matthew was actually a tax collector. And back in these times, tax collectors had a real reputation of ripping off people and maybe taking a little bit more than they should have. So Jesus is walking one day and he runs into Matthew, and Matthew's sitting at this tax collector's booth. Jesus probably already knows, like, this guy's maybe not fair and he's not handling money right, but he comes up to him anyways and he invites Matthew and gives him a very similar invitation as he just did Peter. Let me read it to you. As Jesus went on from there, so this is Matthew chapter 9, verse 9. "As Jesus went on from there, he saw a man called Matthew sitting in a tax collector's booth. He said to him, 'Follow me,' and he got up and followed him." Now, reading both of these stories of kind of the first apostles and disciples that Jesus had, their expectation of following was an immediate response. And I think in this generation and in these times, we have the same willingness. Like, whether you're in a Bible club meeting or you're in a campus, and it's like, do you want to accept Jesus? Do you want to encounter him? And you're like, yes, I do. You stand up, you may be weeping and crying, and you're like, I do. And it's kind of what the disciples went through here, Peter and Andrew and Matthew. When Jesus invited them, they were like, yes, we want to do this. But what followed their yes was the action of actually getting up and leaving what they once knew. This video is following Jesus is not just saying yes in a gym or yes in a room or yes, I want to follow him, and you're crying and you're sobbing, and that's great. But what it really means to follow him is to say, I'm going to leave the things that I once used to do, the things that were once comfortable for me. For some of you watching, it may be some relationships you're in that you maybe shouldn't be in. Maybe for some of you, it's drugs that you really need to just get away from. And you can't serve two masters. The Bible says you'll either love one or you'll hate the other. For some of you, it may be, man, I really need to leave this bad habit of just being rude, or I really need to get rid of this piece of my life that I know is not right, you know. And this is where rubber meets the road. This is where the line's drawn, to where you don't just become a fan of Jesus, where it's like, yes, I know him. You know, fans, there's a lot of people that are fans of different celebrities, and I've known people that know their favorite fan and their favorite celebrity. They know his birthday and his mom's name and his favorite candy and his favorite ice cream, and they know a lot about this celebrity, but they actually don't know the celebrity personally. And this is what really determines when you become a fan into a follower. You're no longer just knowing about Jesus, but you're actually knowing who he is. You're actually starting to look like him. On your campus, your character is changing. All of a sudden, people are like, man, you look different. You sound different. You're not cussing like you used to. You're not getting mad like you used to. Man, you're actually sharing your food with me. What's going on with you? Why are you so kind? Your parents are like, man, what's going on? You're acting really different. You're cleaning your room. Your teachers are like, man, you're actually doing your homework. These are practical ways that we can follow Jesus. And just like these men left the security of their lives, Peter and Andrew left their family business. Matthew leaves his occupation and what he was doing. And they put their trust not in what their own hands can build, but in the God that formed them in his hands. And that is what I want to challenge you guys to do, is to really know what it means to follow Jesus, to follow after him. There's another passage in here that talks about denying yourself and carrying your cross. It doesn't mean you literally go build a wooden cross and you put it on your back and you carry it in your school. What that means is you are going to partake in the same things that Jesus partook in. And here's one more thing I'm going to leave you with of what it truly means to walk like a Christian. So what I'm about to read you here is found in Matthew 5. And this is called the Sermon on the Mount. And this was actually a sermon that Jesus was giving to his disciples and to the people around. And he lays down a really solid foundation, a black and white foundation of what it really means to love God and follow him. And here's what Jesus says. It says, and he opened his mouth and began to teach them, saying, and he says this, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. It's kind of odd, right? Blessed are you when you're poor in spirit. What does that mean, Brian, to be poor in spirit? It means that you understand the state of your being in that moment. It means that you understand that you don't know it all. You don't have it all. Your dependency, like if you ever met someone who's homeless, their dependency is upon someone who will give them something, right? You're driving by in your car and maybe they're on the road and they have a sign and you roll down your window and you hand them something. Their dependency of living is on that person giving. Well, as a believer, our dependency of living is on God. It's totally on him. And it says this, the next one says, verse 4, blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are those who are gentle, for they shall inherit the earth. Another version says, blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. And this is what it means to be meek, that you may have tons of strength, but you choose to not use it. In that moment, you choose to have humility. You choose to, maybe someone's at your school and they yell something at you. Your parents are unfair with you. And in that moment, you choose to not respond in anger. All right? A couple more. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. It doesn't say we chase paper, we chase women, we chase all this stuff. It says, blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. And righteousness means a right standing with God. That's our heart's cry. That we'll stand rightfully before him, that we won't do anything to offend him. In this generation, everyone is so worried about offending each other that no one is concerned about offending God. Let me read a few more. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. And listen to this. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the sons of God. Blessed are those who have been persecuted for the sake of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people insult you and persecute you and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. That's what Jesus says. And it's so crazy to think of that, because our natural response is, if someone says something to us, we want to lash out. Jesus actually says the opposite. He calls you blessed when people persecute you for his name. When people say, man, you're this Christian, you're this Jesus boy, you're this Bible boy, man, that's totally cool. Call me what you want, but I'm still gonna love you. And that's what it really means to follow Jesus. So I want to invite you and just to not be a fan, but to really be a follower. And really let everything you've encountered in these meetings and the salvation you've accepted through Christ, let it be walked out with your actions. Bless you guys.
I can hear the footsteps of my King. I can hear his heartbeat beckoning. In my darkness, he has set me free. And now I hear